Can a corporation monopolize a word we all use? Well, they can try. I learned this from Professor Ralph Ansbach, who fought a 10-year legal battle against Parker Brothers in a case that went all the way to the Supreme Court, all over the name of his board game, Anti-Monopoly.
At the university, and we were talking about how Adam Smith hated monopolies even more than he disliked government. I started looking for a game that fun way showed that monopoly is the disease of capitalism. And then I decided, well, if there's no game around like that, maybe I should invent myself. And that's how I got into the game invention business. I had checked with lawyers and they said there would be no problem because the courts had already found that if a name is the opposite of existing trademark, there would be no confusion that I had a right to do it. And we had orders for over 1 million games, and then the roof fell in. We got a letter from General Mills Fund Group and Parker Brothers threatening us with lawsuits and demanding that we take all our games and destroy them.
Under court order, Ralph's board games were buried in a landfill. Facing a costly, losing legal battle, Ralph was about to give up when he received an anonymous tip.
I was in a television station. A lady calls in and said, they have a lot of nerve to sue you, Professor Ansbach, when they stole the game.
As Ralph started digging into the history of Parker Brothers, he uncovered something he never would have imagined. The official story of Monopoly's inventor was a fraud.
I asked Monopoly how the game was created, and they gave me this story that said, in 1933, Charles Darrow created a prototype of a new game using materials from his own home, based on the streets of Atlantic City, New Jersey. Does this jibe with your research?
It's a total lie, and they know it. Darrow was a con man who copied the game. The question arises, who did invent Monopoly?
It was actually invented by, and this is not real well known, by a woman named Lizzie J. McGee. Had really intended it mainly for educational purposes, and it was called the Landlord game.
McGee was a follower of the 19th century philosopher and economist Henry George. So the game of Monopoly, the original game of Monopoly, the Landlord's game, was meant to show that the monopolization of land in the hands of the few was effectively a burden on those who would do productive labor in society. What then happens? Monopoly goes through transformation. For close to 30 years after its invention in 1903, Monopoly remains a folk game. It's public domain. It is as if it was chess or checkers or dominoes. Anybody could play it. In 1930, after years and years of being this public domain game, it is effectively monopolized by Charles Brace Darrow. He had learned the game from a group of Quakers in Atlantic City. Then Darrow has the chutzpah to then claim that he was the sole inventor of the game. Parker Brothers helps out Darrow to secure a fraudulent patent on the game of Monopoly. Its history is erased and its meaning is inverted. So now Monopoly serves to glorify monopolistic acquisition. It glorifies the landlord, and it becomes the best-selling proprietary game in human history.
In court, Ralph produced depositions from people who had played the game on homemade game boards or oilcloths growing up decades before Darrow, and they all called it Monopoly. Ralph Ansbach won his trademark case against Monopoly. But Parker Brothers repeated the Darrow legend to newspapers and magazines for years, eclipsing the story of the Landlord's game. This showed me how corporations can use marketing to take over the public record, while at the same time taking over an idea that's been in the public domain.